Hi, welcome to another Unitrends training session. This training session is for the install onboarding. Our next section is managing protected assets. In this section, we're going to take a look at managing the protected assets off the local backup source. The following tasks may be completed prior to your scheduled installation date. When we talk about managing protected assets, once again, we're going to show you how to push the Windows agents. We're going to show you how to manually install any agent. We're going to show you how to connect to Hyper-V hosts and how to connect to vCenter and an ESXi host. All right, so we have our appliance rebooted. We've got it upgraded. We're all ready to go with starting to add our assets. So I'm just going to log in here as that same password I sent in the setup wizard in the first login. You can see now I'm logged into my appliance once again. I can see the version that it's on. We just showed you. But now we're going to go to configure and we're going to go to protected assets. And when you start talking about managing assets in here and you talk about the Windows physical servers or where you need agents and to push agents, it may be for SQL databases, Exchange, Oracle on Windows, or SharePoint on Windows. You may need to install an agent to be able to get to those applications in those databases. If it's on a Windows domain or you have a local administrator password, you can use that password and authenticate to that machine. Through the MSI, you can roll out and install that Windows agent that's required for physical servers or, once again, when you want to get to the application layer. So one of the first things you might want to do is manage your credentials. You may come in here and add a credential for your local administrator. That may be the administrator user account. You may know the password for this local user account. Now the key is here in the domain optional. If you don't put a domain in here or a machine name in here, it's going to try to use the local machine name of whatever machine you're set to use this credential. So I'm going to leave this blank and call this local admin. Now you may have a domain account that has local administrator rights, and it may be administrator user account. It may be on your domain, and you may set that to that same domain, your domain. Now in this case, it will try to use the domain account for the domain administrator and whatever that password is to authenticate to install the agent. It has to have local administrator rights to be able to install software through the domain account. All right, you can see those two different credentials. Now we're going to go ahead and cancel out of here. Now that we've got our credentials created, now we can actually go ahead and start to tie to our assets. The easiest one, the most powerful one to make is your VMware connection. You may have an IP address of your vCenter or any one of your ESXi hosts, and you can use that IP address. You can also use whatever administrator username you have to give you access to the VMware environment through vCenter. Right? You have to figure out what administrator account that is in your environment. I can't tell you to use a particular account. It does need to have full VMware admin rights. We're going to go ahead and save that connection, and you'll see that it immediately connects to the API for VMware and brings you back a list of, if you're connected to vCenter, all of your hosts and all the guests within that vCenter environment. If you have a server you want to turn on application-aware credentials for, you can edit each virtual guest, and you can assign credentials and enable application-aware settings across that virtual machine. It will properly snapshot SQL databases on your SQL server, as long as it's not clustered and the SQL server is VSS compliant. Once again, check the administrator guide for full VSS application-aware permissions and requirements. Now let's go ahead. I want to show you really quickly in the dashboard, because we've tied to VMware and we've got 7 virtual guests, we now show 7 false protected assets here inside of our protection summary report. As we start to schedule backups against those assets, they will shift over to the protected column. But now we're ready to go ahead and start showing you how to add assets of the physical type, or once again, maybe you want to connect to application server for SQL or Exchange. So if I want to go connect to a machine, this may be a Windows 7 desktop. You'll get the IP address of that machine. You'll see here the options for encrypt backups and install the agent, Windows only. Because for Windows only, we did set up those credentials. We're going to use the local administrator account to authenticate to this machine, and it's going to install the agent through the WMI and the MSI installers authenticating to this machine. And we can see now we've authenticated to our Windows 7 desktop. It's pushed the agent to that. We can see the credential that we use to that machine, and we can see the agent version as well too. Now, if you have a list of assets, you can go right down that list of assets, and you can start to register all of those different servers for their application backend once again too. So if I know I have a SQL server out here, and I want to push the agent to that SQL server, I can do that as well too. Now we'll go ahead and synchronize the inventory. We'll let this inventory sync here at the top. When this is completed, this is HTML5 interface. We just need to toggle off of that page and back over now. And if I drop down my asset, I can now see my databases and my farm sitting on that SQL server through the agent. You may have other assets as well too. I've got an RDR server sitting in here. I'm going to use the agent push with the local administrator account one more time, just to show you one more. So if you have a list ready and you know your IP addresses, you know they all use a common local administrator account, it's extremely easy to roll out our agents to these different machines. So here you can see my RDR server is completed. Now the trick is, if you're tying to Hyper-V, you could go to virtual host and add your Hyper-V host to the appliance, but this credential right here does not install the Windows Agent push. You would have to manually remote desktop to your Hyper-V server and manually install the agent from the appliance. Inside of my Hyper-V server, I could open up the File Explorer window. I could then type in the address to my appliance here and manually install the agent from the Windows Agent install directory. In this case, I want the 64-bit agent. I can run that installer right from the appliance. Just go right through the prompts here to do the default installation. It doesn't take very long. And this is what the agent push is doing on the backside, by the way. It's doing the exact same thing. Here I can close out the agent install. I can actually close out this remote desktop session as well too. And now I can actually add the Hyper-V host through the virtual host, just adding it in here. I don't even need to put in the credentials actually, because the agent is already installed on that server. There's the Hyper-V host. Once again, if I synchronize my inventory at the top, I let that inventory sync run at the top. When it's completed, I can toggle off of this screen once again and back to my protected assets, drop down the Hyper-V environment, and now I can see those Hyper-V guests on that host. Once again, check the administrator guide. Check our other learning resources and the other courses and the tutorials and lectures for the system administrator on the criteria for connecting to VMware and Hyper-V clusters. Now the last one I want to show you in here is just how easy it is to get to a Linux installer. I'm going to log in with this account, and under my downloads directory, I have already downloaded the Unitrends installers for this version of Linux. Once again, you'll go out to the Unitrends support page, you'll check our downloads, verify your version of Linux or Mac or Unix, download the correct installer, and run those in accordance to the administrator guide for your particular version of Linux as well too. In this case, you can go over here to the console. We can go to the help guide. We'll just show you how quickly and easy this is to find this. We're going to go and search over here for the Linux agent install. Here's our Linux installing and updating the Linux agent. Installing the agent. So we want to look down here at installing the CentOS agent, and here's our commands right here for the CentOS agent. We're going to run the 64-bit, which is right here. I'm going to take this command all the way to the Unitrends dash. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste that command into my appliance. I do need to run this as sudo as the administrator, as root, and at the end of this command, I'm going to put in the version. I'm going to run that installer. I'm going to say yes when it prompts me. Now once again in this directory, you'll notice that there's two installers. We do need to install that second installer, so I'm going to go all the way back to the 8 here, and I'm going to put in O for Oracle and press tab again. That'll auto-populate that unique file name for my next installer. This is the Oracle dependency installer. If you're running Oracle on Linux, you need to install this dependency so we can see the Oracle databases inside of the Unitrends system as well too. Now I'm done on the Linux console, so now over in my Unitrends console, I'm just going to add another asset. This is going to be to my Linux server. I'm going to use the address to that Linux server, but I'm going to make sure I take off the install the agent. The agent's already there now manually. Just going to go ahead and save this connection. It's going to use the existing agent. It's going to see my Linux server once again, but the application is not populated. It is running a sync right now automatically for me, so I don't even have to go over here and synchronize. I just have to, once again, once it's done, toggle off and back, and now I can see my application databases for Oracle on Linux as well too. Now once again in the dashboard here, I can flip over, I can refresh this dashboard. It's not real-time refresh, but if I click the dashboard one more time, I can now see that I have 40 assets that are not protected. Once again, as I start to schedule and run backups against these assets, it will flip those over to a true value, and my protected asset count will change in these values as well too. So pretty good quick overview on how to add and manage your protected assets.